July 11th, 1991. The morning of the great eclipse, the moon's shadow glides over the pyramids of Teotihuacan, a cosmic curtain concealing ancient secrets. Thousands of people, their faces tilted toward the sky, are shielded by special glasses, cameras in hand, capturing what would be remembered as one of the most spectacular eclipses of the 20th century. The air vibrates with the collective thrill of a once-in-a-lifetime event. But amidst this celestial celebration, something sinister is about to unfold. Among the crowd watching the astronomical phenomenon, 11 people are living their last documented minutes of existence. Their laughter mingles with the murmurs of awe from the spectators. Their cameras capture the final rays of sunlight before totality. Their voices are recorded on tapes that would soon become ghostly evidence. The most disturbing part is not that they disappeared without a trace. The most disturbing part is that a Super 8 camera, left on a picnic blanket, continued to record for 43 minutes after its owners vanished into the eclipse's darkness. The tape shows their empty places, their belongings untouched, and something else. Something NASA would prefer you never see. This is the story of the 11 people who disappeared under the shadow of the eclipse, and how one of the world's most powerful scientific institutions has kept the truth of what really happened that day in Teotihuacan a secret. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more cases like this, and hit the notification bell. Let me know in the comments which country you're watching from. Meet the 11 people whose lives were cut short in the most magical moment of that July 11th. María Elena Vázquez, 34, an astronomy professor at the Autonomous University of Mexico. She had traveled from Mexico City with her new Nikon camera, engaged just 3 weeks prior to her fiancé, Carlos. In her backpack, she carried a notebook filled with calculations on the eclipse's duration and a love letter that would never be delivered. Roberto Beto Hernandez, 28, a freelance photographer documenting the event for National Geographic Mexico. His professional gear included 3 cameras and a special telephoto lens to capture the solar corona. His last radio message to his editor was, "The shots are perfect, this is going to be a cover story." The Jiménez siblings, Carmen, 19, an archaeology student, and Diego, 22, a recent engineering graduate. They had saved for months for this trip from Guadalajara. Carmen carried a journal where she wrote that morning, "Today I will see something our Mexica ancestors also saw. I feel connected to history." Dr. James Sullivan, 45, an American astrophysicist and a visiting researcher from the Smithsonian. He had come with specialized measuring equipment and a professional audio recorder to document his scientific observations in real time. The Morales family. Patricia, 38, her husband Manuel, 41, and their children, Ana Sofia, 8, and Mateo, 12. They drove from Puebla in their blue Zuru. They had camped out the night before. The children had disposable cameras and a notebook where they drew the phases of the eclipse they hoped to see. Kenji Nakamura, 23, a Japanese exchange student, was documenting the eclipse for his thesis on archaeoastronomy. His high-8 video camera captured the last known images of the entire group, all smiling, adjusting their eclipse glasses. Helena Ruiz, 31, an artist from Monterrey, was painting watercolors of the event live. Her portable easel and brushes were found exactly as she had left them, with a half-finished painting depicting the moment of totality. All of them carried identification, handwritten emergency contact numbers, and enough food and water. All had informed their families of their exact location. None had any reason to disappear voluntarily. Their lives were full of projects, dreams, and people waiting for them back home. 5:30 a.m. The first groups begin to arrive at Teotihuacan. Guards at the archaeological site report unusual traffic since before dawn. The temperature is 18 degrees Celsius. The sky is clear. Perfect conditions for observation. 7:15 a.m. María Elena and Roberto meet by chance while looking for the best angle for their equipment. She comments, "According to my calculations, the shadow will arrive from the northeast." Their voices are captured on Dr. Sullivan's recorder, who was calibrating his own equipment nearby. 8:45 a.m. The Jiménez siblings arrive, setting up about 50 meters from the Morales family. Carmen begins to write in her journal. The atmosphere is magical. Thousands of people awaiting the same cosmic moment. Her handwriting is clear, determined. 9:20 a.m. Kenji turns on his high-8 camera and begins to document the atmosphere. His voice can be heard on the recording. The crowd is so excited you can feel a special energy. He also captures for the first time Helena Ruiz beginning her painting. 9:58 a.m. First contact. The moon begins to cover the sun. Dr. Sullivan activates all his measuring instruments and begins his voice notations. First phase initiated. Atmospheric conditions are stable. 10:14 a.m. The partial eclipse is clearly visible. The 11 individuals are documented in photographs taken by nearby tourists, all in their positions, active and present. This is the last confirmed visual evidence of the entire group. 10:47 a.m. Shadow bands begin to dance across the pyramids. The temperature drops by 6 degrees. Animals behave strangely. The birds suddenly stop singing. 11:05 a.m. Totality, Dr. Sullivan's last audio recording. Corona visible, temperature dropping rapidly. There's something strange in the ionosphere. The recording cuts off abruptly with a sound that experts would later describe as severe electromagnetic interference. According to later analysis, this is the exact moment of the disappearance. An automatic camera from the National Institute of Anthropology, programmed to take photos every 30 seconds, captures the final image. 11 faint silhouettes under the solar corona. 11:06 a.m. Totality ends. The sun reappears. Applause and shouts of excitement fill the air. But in the section where our 11 people were, only their belongings remain. Cameras still running. Untouched food. Eclipse glasses resting on empty blankets. 11:48 a.m. A German tourist, Ingrid Meller, approaches the area and finds Kenji's camera still recording. The LCD screen shows the counter. 43 minutes of continuous recording of an empty space. The first 48 hours after the eclipse were marked by an administrative chaos that fatally compromised the investigation. With over 38,000 visitors at Teotihuacan that day, authorities initially assumed the group had simply left and forgotten their belongings. Commander Miguel Ángel Soto, in charge of the initial investigation, would state years later, "We had never handled a mass disappearance of this magnitude. Our protocol was designed for individual cases." His first mistake was the failure to immediately cordon off the area where the belongings were found. For hours, hundreds of tourists walked over the scene, contaminating any potential physical evidence. Teresa Aguirre, a witness who was 20 meters from the group, reported seeing a very bright flash during totality, but I thought it was part of the eclipse. Her testimony was not taken seriously until weeks later. The investigators' initial theory was that the group had planned the disappearance as some kind of artistic performance related to the eclipse. This hypothesis was based on the profiles of some of the missing: María Elena, the astronomy professor; Helena Ruiz, the artist; Dr. Sullivan, with his international academic connections. Suspect number 1, Carlos Mendez, a local tour guide who had been offering mystical experiences during the eclipse. Some witnesses saw him speaking with María Elena hours before the event. He was interrogated for 3 days, but his alibi was solid. Multiple tourists confirmed he was guiding a group at the Pyramid of the Sun during totality. Suspect number 2, Eduardo El Brujo Santana, a self-proclaimed shaman who performed unauthorized ceremonies around the site. Police found several tourists' personal items in his possession, but they had all been purchased as souvenirs after the eclipse. His polygraph test was inconclusive. Suspect number 3, Dr. Patricia Lamili, an archaeologist who had publicly opposed the commercialization of astronomical events at sacred sites. Her presence at Teotihuacan that day was official, documenting potential damage to the site from the crowd. Security cameras show her in verifiable locations throughout the critical period. The investigation grew more complicated as contradictory testimonies emerged. Juan Ramirez, a craft vendor, swore he saw the group walking towards secret tunnels under the pyramid just after the eclipse. However, there are no publicly accessible tunnels in that area, and Ramirez had a history of selling false information to tourists. Rosa Delgado, a cleaner at the site, reported finding buried clothing near the area 3 days later. When police excavated, they only found trash left by tourists and ancient pottery fragments, likely disturbed by the unusual foot traffic. What they did find was more unsettling than anyone could have imagined. All the group's cameras and recorders had stopped functioning at exactly 11:05:37 a.m., not from dead batteries or visible damage. Forensic technicians described the phenomenon as a synchronized electromagnetic disruption, with no precedent in our records. Analysis of Kenji's Hi-8 tape revealed something investigators initially classified as a technical malfunction. In the final frames before the interruption, extremely blurry humanoid shapes appeared, seeming to stretch vertically as if being pulled upward. Video experts attributed it to distortion from electromagnetic radiation. What do you think really happened? Did the police overlook something obvious? Leave your theory in the comments while I continue with the years of anguish that followed. And if this story is impacting you, hit the like button so more people can learn about this case. After 28 years of sepulchral slints, the official case files reveal a story of frustration, wild theories, and a family's pain that was never resolved. 1992 to 1995, the false sightings. Carmen Elena Vasquez, María Elena's sister, received 47 calls about sightings in the first 4 years. Each call was like reopening the wound, she confessed in a 1998 radio interview. The cruelest was a report from Oaxaca, where a woman claimed to have seen María Elena working as a teacher in an indigenous community. Carmen traveled 12 hours by bus only to discover it was a local teacher who bore a superficial resemblance. Roberto Hernandez Sr., the missing photographer's father, hired 3 different private investigators. He spent his retirement savings chasing leads that took him from Texas to Guatemala. In 1994, he received an anonymous photograph in the mail, supposedly showing his son at a train station in Veracruz. The image turned out to be from an 80s modeling catalog. 1996, 2001. The urban rituals. Teotihuacan began to attract esoteric groups who performed invocation ceremonies every July 11th, trying to communicate with the disappeared. Father Francisco Morales, uncle of the missing Morales family, described these events as a second tragedy that desecrates the memory of our loved ones. In 1999, a group of 30 people gathered at the exact spot of the disappearance during a minor partial eclipse. 3 participants reported having visions of the victims calling to them from another dimensional plane. The video of this ceremony, uploaded to the internet years later, went viral on paranormal forums. Elena Ruiz Martinez, the missing artist's mother, visited the site every month until 2003. She would bring fresh flowers and stay for exactly 11 minutes. It's the only thing I can do for her, she told a reporter from the Excelsior newspaper. 11 minutes for the 11 years I haven't been able to hug her. 2002-2010. The conspiracy theories. The case began to appear in books on unsolved mysteries and television documentaries. Each new version added elements that complicated the search for truth. One popular theory suggested the group was abducted by ancient astronauts who returned during eclipses. Dr. Humberto Maldonado, an anthropologist at UNAM, published an essay in 2005 titled Teotihuacan 91, When Science Becomes Myth. His research documented how urban legends had distorted the actual facts. I found versions where the number of disappeared varied between 7 and 23 people, where the eclipse lasted for hours instead of minutes, where there were strange lights that were never officially reported. Kenji Nakamura Sr., the Japanese student's father, corresponded with the Mexican families until his death in 2008. His letters, written in self-taught Spanish, read, "My son came to Mexico seeking ancient history. He found a modern mystery that has no answer." 2011-2018. The Cold Case. The case was officially archived on August 14, 2004, as a mass disappearance without resolution due to lack of conclusive evidence. The files were transferred to the historical archives of the State of Mexico's Attorney General's office. Licenciada Sandra Vega, a lawyer who represented several families pro bono for a decade, managed to keep the case technically open until 2011. The families had a right to answers, she stated in her final legal report, but after 20 years, no authority was willing to invest resources in an investigation that seemed impossible to solve. During this period, the only official activity was maintaining the lists of missing persons in international databases. Ana Sofía and Mateo Morales appeared on Interpol's records as missing minors until they legally came of age, at which point their cases were reclassified as missing adults, with no status update. The only ones who never stopped searching were the families. Manuel Jiménez, the father of the missing siblings, died in 2016 without answers. His last wish was for his ashes to be scattered at Teotihuacan, to be close to Carmen and Diego. His widow fulfilled his wish in a private ceremony on July 11, 2017, exactly 26 years after the disappearance. October 16, 2019. Miguel Torres, a retired high school teacher and amateur archaeologist, was going about his weekly metal detecting routine on the outskirts of Teotihuacan. His detector pinged, signaling something unusual buried about 40 centimeters deep. He was standing in the exact area where 11 people had vanished decades earlier. "At first, I thought it was just modern trash," Torres recalled. The object was wrapped in industrial plastic, the kind used to shield electronics from moisture. But inside, he found a Video 8 cassette, the small tape format used by professional camcorders in the early 90s. The cassette was unlabeled but in a perfect state of preservation. Aware of the site's history, Torres immediately contacted the local authorities. But with the case having been archived 15 years prior, there was no active investigation to officially process the evidence. It was Dr. Patricia Lomé Lee, the very same archaeologist briefly considered a suspect back in 1991, now the director of the Teotihuacan Conservation Project, who authorized the cassette's analysis at the National University's labs. 28 years later, we still had no answers, she would later say. This tape could be significant or it could be just another dead end, but the families deserve to know. The cassette's contents were digitized on October 23, 2019. The recording ran for exactly 847 minutes, beginning at 9:52 a.m. on July 11th, 1991. For the first 73 minutes, it showed typical eclipse day scenes. Tourists setting up equipment, vendors selling special viewing glasses, the festive atmosphere building before the main astronomical event. But at minute 74, as the eclipse reached totality, the recording became extraordinary. The image captures the precise moment day, turns to an artificial night, and there in the center of the frame are the 11 missing people clearly visible, all in their original positions gazing at the sky. The most disturbing event occurs at 76 minutes and 14 seconds. During the peak of totality, as the solar corona blazes, an anomalous flash is recorded, a phenomenon that corresponds to no known astronomical event. The flash lasts exactly 3.7 seconds, appearing to originate from the ground and project upward like a column of greenish light. Immediately after the flash, the 11 human figures in the recording begin to turn progressively translucent. It's not a gradual fade, but happens in synchronized waves pulsing with the anomalous light. The image is clear enough to distinguish their faces. María Elena turning her head toward the light source. Roberto adjusting his camera, the Morales children pointing at the sky. At exactly the 77-minute mark, the figures vanish completely. The camera continues to record the same empty frame, now showing only their abandoned belongings. Backpacks, cameras, blankets, eclipse glasses, everything exactly as it was found by the authorities. But one detail would chill the blood of anyone watching. Among the abandoned items, a blurry, barely perceptible human figure can be seen moving for 11 minutes after the disappearance. The figure appears to pick something up from the ground. Analysis suggests it could be the Video 8 tape itself, just before the figure, too, becomes completely invisible. The camera kept recording until its battery died, 847 minutes after it started, documenting the gradual return of other tourists, the arrival of the authorities, and finally the initial investigation we all know. Dr. Samuel Chen, a digital forensics specialist from MIT, was contacted in December 2019 to examine the recording's authenticity. In my 20 years of analyzing video evidence, I have never seen anything like this, he stated in his preliminary report. Technical analysis revealed the tape was genuinely from 1991, confirmed by the natural degradation of the magnetic material and the cassette's internal time codes. More importantly, the recording's metadata perfectly matched a Sony Handycam CCD-TR5, the same model Kenji Nakamura had registered with Mexican customs upon entering the country. Dr. Marina Volkov, an expert in atmospheric phenomena, analyzed the anomalous flash. The light emission does not correspond to any known natural phenomenon associated with solar eclipses, her report concluded. The light frequency suggests an artificial high-energy source, possibly a laser or concentrated plasma. But the most significant breakthrough came when Dr. James Patterson, a former NASA researcher specializing in electromagnetic anomalies during eclipses, agreed to review declassified agency files related to the 1991 event. In January 2021, Patterson uncovered an internal NASA document dated July 17, 1992, exactly 1 year after the eclipse. The document, classified as confidential until 2021, was a technical report titled Ionospheric Anomalies During Total Solar Eclipse, Mexico 1991 Satellite Data Analysis. The report confirmed that NASA satellites had detected significant irregularities in the Earth's electromagnetic field during the eclipse, specifically over the Teotihuacan region. The measurements showed spikes in electromagnetic radiation 340% above normal levels, concentrated in an area of approximately 200 square meters. The exact coordinates recorded by NASA were precisely where the belongings of the missing were found. Dr. Patterson revealed the data had been classified because, as the report stated, we had no explanation for the phenomenon and feared generating public panic if it were associated with the disappearances reported in the Mexican media. The document also mentioned that satellite sensors had temporarily lost contact with that specific area for 11 minutes, the exact same period the human figures are absent from the video recording. Advanced spectral analysis conducted by labs at the University of California revealed that the anomalous flash contained light frequencies identical to those used in quantum teleportation experiments. While this technology was in its infancy in 1991, it existed in highly classified military laboratories. Dr. Lisa Hamilton, a quantum physicist from CERN, was consulted on the findings. The electromagnetic patterns described in the NASA report, she stated, are consistent with theoretical models of localized dimensional dephasing that my team developed in 2018. If someone had been experimenting with these technologies in 1991, it would have required equipment the size of a building and an energy consumption equivalent to a small city. The term magnetic dephasing appears 17 times in the declassified NASA documents, always referring to unidentified spatio-temporal displacement phenomena. The files suggest the agency had been monitoring these types of anomalies during eclipses since 1979, but the Teotihuacan case presented an intensity and duration unprecedented in our records. Forensic analysis of audio extracted from the recording revealed sounds inaudible to the human ear during the flash. Using amplification software, technicians identified what they described as distorted human voices calling for help, broadcast in subsonic frequencies and played back at a speed 400% slower than normal. In March 2022, an anonymous contact reached out to independent investigators through encrypted channels, identifying himself only as Vector 7. He was later confirmed to be Dr. Marcus Webb, a former employee of NASA's Special Projects Division from 1987 to 1994. "I can no longer keep this secret." These were Webb's first words in an audio recording, authenticated by independent experts. The 11 people at Teotihuacan did not disappear by accident. They were the unwitting victims of a highly classified field test. According to Webb, in 1991, NASA was developing Project Kronos, a joint military initiative with the Pentagon to create windows of temporary invisibility using high-intensity electromagnetic fields, synchronized with natural astronomical events. Solar eclipses provided the ideal ionospheric conditions for these experiments. Teotihuacan was selected because the pyramids contain high concentrations of quartz crystals in their structure, Webb explained. These crystals act as natural conductors when exposed to specific electromagnetic radiation. It was the perfect laboratory to test our theories. The experiment, according to documents Webb leaked, involved 3 military satellites strategically positioned over Mexico, equipped with directed electromagnetic pulse emitters. The objective was to create a temporal distortion bubble lasting exactly 11 minutes, the same duration as the disappearances. The theory was simple, Webb continued. During the eclipse's totality, when natural electromagnetic conditions were at their most unstable, our emitters would create a field that would temporarily displace any organic matter within the target area. The test subjects would be shifted 11 minutes into the future and then automatically return. But something went terribly wrong. The calculations had not accounted for the specific organic mass of 11 people simultaneously. The system overloaded, Webb admitted. Instead of a controlled temporal displacement, we created a vacuum, a hole in space-time. The leaked documents included transcripts of communications between NASA Mission Control and the satellite operators during the eclipse. 11:05:32 a.m. Control initiating activation sequence. Confirm target position. 11:05:45 a.m. Satellite 2. Position confirmed. We detect 11 subjects in the impact zone. 11:05:51 a.m. Control. Proceed with Phase 1. 11:06:15 a.m. Satellite 1. Anomaly in energy reading. Levels are 400% above predictions. 11:06:33 a.m. Control. Do you have visual on the target subjects? 11:07:12 a.m. Satellite 3. Negative. The target area shows a complete void. I repeat, a complete void. 11:15 a.m. Control. Initiate reversal sequence. 11:16:45 a.m. Satellite 2. Reversal complete. No change in target area. The subjects have not returned. We waited 24 hours to see if they would return on their own, Webb revealed. When they didn't, the project was classified at the highest level, and all involved signed lifelong non-disclosure agreements. Officially, the experiment never happened. Webb also revealed that the Video 8 camera found in 2019 had been buried by him 3 days after the incident. It contained evidence of the experiment that we couldn't allow to be discovered in 1991. The technology back then wouldn't have been able to analyze what that recording truly shows. When asked about the ultimate fate of the 11 people, Webb fell silent for several minutes before answering. They are displaced, not dead. They exist in a fold of space-time that we accidentally created. In theory, they could be recovered if we develop the reverse technology. Dr. Patricia Lamelli, who had followed the case for 3 decades, commented after learning of Webb's revelations, "If this is true, it means 11 families have suffered for 31 years because of a covert military experiment. It means their loved ones aren't dead, but they aren't alive in our plane of existence either." The truth was more disturbing than any theory the families had considered over decades of fruitless searching. It wasn't a crime of passion or a kidnapping or even an inexplicable paranormal event. It was misapplied military science, with consequences its creators never anticipated. Elena Ruiz Martinez, the mother of the missing artist, now 89 years old, was personally informed of Webb's revelations. Her reaction was devastating. "For 31 years, I prayed that my daughter was in a better place. I never imagined she was trapped in no place at all." Webb's documents also revealed that the U.S. government had secretly compensated Mexican authorities with technical aid on space projects to ensure the official investigation never connected the disappearances with foreign activity on Mexican soil. General Richard Hayes, retired, who oversaw Project Kronos, initially denied Webb's accusations but later declassified military documents confirmed his involvement in temporal manipulation experiments during the period of 1989 to 1993. What you're about to discover is more disturbing than you can imagine. If you believe you can handle it, continue watching. The case didn't end on the day they disappeared, but on the day the truth began to surface. Although no criminal sentences were ever handed down, the statutes of limitation had expired and international jurisdiction complicated any legal proceedings. Webb's revelations triggered a series of actions that finally provided some form of closure. In September 2022, the U.S. Congress passed a resolution officially acknowledging that Mexican citizens were the involuntary victims of unauthorized military experiments on foreign soil. The resolution included a formal apology and the establishment of a $2.3 million compensation fund for the affected families. Maria del Carmen Vasquez, María Elena's sister, now 76, used part of the compensation to establish the 11th of July Foundation, dedicated to investigating unexplained disappearances in Mexico. My sister was a scientist, she declared at the inauguration ceremony. She would have wanted her tragedy to serve to help others. The Mexican government, pressed by the revelation of the cover-up, declassified all files related to the case and established a protocol to investigate any unauthorized foreign activity during future astronomical events. On July 11, 2022, exactly 31 years after the disappearances, the families organized the first official memorial ceremony at Teotihuacan. 11 jacaranda trees were planted on the exact site where the event occurred, each with a plaque bearing the name and age of a victim. Kenji Nakamura Jr., son of the missing student, traveled from Tokyo to participate. "My father came to Mexico seeking a connection with ancient history," he said in the perfect Spanish he had learned as a tribute. He inadvertently became part of a history that should never have happened. During the ceremony, Dr. Marcus Webb appeared publicly for the first time, without a mask or a pseudonym. The families confronted him directly, but the encounter was surprisingly peaceful. "I didn't come here seeking forgiveness," Webb stated. "I came to ensure you know that we are still working to bring them back." Webb revealed that an international consortium of quantum physicists, privately funded, was now developing technology to reverse temporal displacement events. The project, known as the Kronos Recovery Initiative, had achieved minor breakthroughs in the lab, successfully recovering inanimate objects that had been temporarily displaced. "It is theoretically possible," explained Dr. Sarachan, the project's lead, "but it requires us to recreate the exact electromagnetic conditions that existed during the 1991 eclipse, including the precise positions of the sun and moon." The next total eclipse visible from Teotihuacan will not occur until July 14, 2045. The families now face an impossible choice: wait another 23 years for a recovery attempt that might fail, or accept that their loved ones are lost forever, adrift in a fold of time. Manuela Jiménez Viuda, mother of the missing siblings, voiced the collective sentiment. "We have waited 31 years. We can wait 23 more if there is even the slightest chance of bringing them home." The area where the disappearances occurred has been declared a scientific preservation zone. Every July 11th, sensitive instruments monitor the site, searching for any electromagnetic anomaly that might signal an attempt by the displaced to return. To this day, the detectors have remained silent. But the families continue to wait, and science continues to search for answers to a tragedy that began with an eclipse and continues to cast its shadow over the lives of those who never stopped seeking the truth. The story of Teotihuacan 1991 has become a stark reminder that the pursuit of knowledge, without regard for ethics, can create tragedies that echo across generations, and that sometimes the truth is far stranger and more painful than any mystery. If you've made it this far, this story must have resonated with you. Subscribe to the channel and activate all notifications so you don't miss the next case. Comment below what case you'd like me to investigate next. Do you know of an unsolved mystery in your country? Let me know in the comments. Hit the like button if you want more stories like this, and share this video with someone who appreciates well-researched true crime. I'll see you in the next case.